Well, that's a good point. Tariffs and tax incentives, both very, very important. They go together. Joining us now, Senators Tim Sheehy of Montana and Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Mr. Sheehy, you know, I'm looking at a chart, average tariff rate applied to products by country, and this is for 2022, the latest data. So it's interesting. India has an average tariff of 14%, actually 14.3%. Brazil's average tariff is 12.4. China's is 6.5. The United States is 2.7. So when Mr. Trump talks about how their tariff rates are far higher than our tariff rates, and he would like a policy of reciprocity, I know the stock market is in a correction mode, but the reality is President Trump is right on this, isn't he? And doesn't he have to do something about it because the world trading system's been broken all these years?
Well, apparently free trade only means free trade for other countries and not for America. And as you all know, Larry, a lot of those countries bake in tariffs in other ways, whether they call it a value-add tax, an import fee, an import tax, or they have regulatory hurdles that artificially create trade barriers for American companies. So what's happening now is we are leveling the playing field so American companies can compete on the global stage and win on the global stage, because that's what we will do when given a fair landscape to play in.
And Senator Mullin, look, you're getting a lot of static from the stock market. Look, corrections come and go. You're down 10% in the stock market. It's not the worst thing in the world. But the president said he's going to be steadfast in making his case on reciprocal tariff policy. Now, here's where I wanted to go with you, sir. You can't imagine how important the tax cuts are. Suppose you want to bring investment into the United States. We are offering them a 100% depreciation for machinery and equipment, immediate expensing, and factories, which is a brand new wrinkle, and it would be retroactive to January 20th, Senator Mullin. Now, my point is, if you're going to make these changes in our policies, and you're going to protect the home front, and you're going to try to level the world trading playing field the way Mr. Trump wants to do, we have got to have these tax cuts right away. We can't be waiting. You heard him today. He put the notice in the same phrase. He said tariffs and tax incentives. They go together. We'll bring people here with the lowest tax rates virtually in the industrialized world. But what are you all waiting for, Senator Mullin?
Well, there's several things happening right now. First of all, we got to finish this CR that's left over from the Biden administration. Then we can start looking at reconciliation, where we can put permanent tax cuts in place. Any business owner that has ever been in business wants stability. They want to know what they're going to get. So incentives on coming to the United States and being able to write off your investment is great. But what does the road look like down the road? So are you going to have a regulatory environment that is conducive for your business, and are you going to have access to other markets? And so they go hand in hand. If you have a good tax policy, plus you have free trade, because reciprocal tariffs create free trade, you have opportunities to access their markets. And so if the business owners themselves know that they're going to have stability with long-term investment return and have access to other markets than just the United States with free or equal trade going back and forth with the tariffs, then you can have an environment where businesses can thrive inside the United States. When we create that, we will not only compete with anybody in the world, but we'll excel in everything we're doing.
But that leads me back, Senator Sheehy, to my original question. Why are we letting the grass grow on this? In other words, what I heard today in the Oval, it's as though President Trump was asking for help. Now, he talked about one big, beautiful bill. Maybe we'll play the tape in a minute. But he is coupling the tariffs with the tax cuts. And that's a very important statement. He's saying, I'm going to do my part in negotiating reciprocal trade policies that will improve America's position. But he's saying you have to do your part. You have to help him. You have to give him the tax cut incentives that will bring that money here to the United States. Now, I know there may be hundreds of reasons. I've been around Washington for quite some time myself, but I'm telling you, you cannot let the grass grow on these tax cuts. Trump is asking you to get it done quickly, Senator.
Right.
So we are. Larry, what I'd say is we're not letting the grass grow in anything. We've confirmed the presidential cabinet at a faster rate in over 2 decades. We have pressured the system to the maximum. Leader Thune's done a great job. Our schedule's been the most aggressive. I think Chuck Grassley told me the other day, I've been here 8 weeks. He's been here 42 years. He's like, I don't think the Senate's ever worked this much ever since I've been here. So the primary focus has been getting the cabinet in place because, as you know, Larry, having the cabinet secretaries in their positions is the most important thing we can do to deliver on the America First agenda, because they're the ones who have the authority to start reforming these agencies and making sure they are working for the American people. Immediately now we're moving to the CR, and I can promise you the top priority for this conference, I'm telling you, there's not a conference lunch or conference meeting that goes by where we are not talking about making the tax cuts permanent.
That's right.
So exactly what Mark Wayne said, our American business owners and investors have certainty in our regulatory environment so they can invest even more. And let's not forget, in these last couple of weeks, Larry, we've seen unprecedented announcements of investments into America, hundreds of billions of dollars of manufacturing coming back to our country. So, point taken, but I can promise you getting the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act turned into a permanent law so we have certainty. That's a top priority for us, and we're going to be getting there as fast as we can.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's close to $2 trillion, Senator Mullin. The president has chronicled that, and he's put out some White House communications on it. But again, I don't want to lose that money. I don't want to lose it to some other country that might be cutting taxes before we cut taxes. And again, I come back to this point. I heard the president. Actually, let's run the tape. Let's just run the tape. Here's what he said about that tax incentives and tariffs in the Oval Office today. Please stay with me on this.
Ultimately, we want to vote for one big, beautiful bill where we put the taxes in, we put everything in. We're going to have big tax cuts. We're going to have tremendous incentives for companies coming into our country and employing lots of people. It'll be, I called it, in a rare moment, one big, beautiful bill. That's what I like, and it seems to be that's where they're heading.
One big, beautiful bill. Again, if you listen to him, it sounds like he's asking you all for help. Right. He's saying, give us, help me out here.
Larry, we're going to be able to deliver for the president. And sometimes he says one big, beautiful, glamorous bill. We want to deliver exactly what the president has, but the chambers have to work their will. Right now, underneath current law is what the House reconciliation or the budget package looks like. Well, that causes problems because if you go underneath current law, which we're talking about tax policy here, that creates about a $4 trillion deficit. If we use current policy, which is what the Senate is wanting to do, it makes the tax permanent rather than the House only has 8 years. It makes it permanent, and it doesn't create a deficit. Which, if you go to Reagan economics, we don't count tax cuts as a deficit because we know that the American people, the American business owner and the employees will spend the money better than Washington, D.C. They will invest it wisely and our economy will grow.
Oh, Senator Mullin, please hold that thought. As an old Reagan guy, please hold that thought. That was a beautiful thought that you just expressed on dynamic scoring. And the fact is, current policy, as Senator Crapo has tried to tell everybody, current policy would score this stuff as deficit neutral. Senator Sheehy, I'll give you the last word, sir.
We're focused on the America First economy, Larry, and that means, Milton Friedman, the great father of modern economics, once said the single greatest indicator that you must look at in the economy is what is the government spending. How much of the GDP is government spending? As you well know, our economy has been on a sugar high for a long time. It's been distorted by excess government spending, and I think what we're seeing here from this administration and what you're going to see from this Congress is redisciplining to ensure that our economy is based on private investment and free market growth, not public sector spending. That's what we're working on.
Well said. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Senators Tim Sheehy and Mark Wayne Mullin, we appreciate it very, very much. Coming up here, we're going to